Hi, I'm Dr. Kurt Dreger. My wife and I have been in chiropractic practice now for the last 20 years here in Weston, Wisconsin, and I've had the pleasure of being able to work with the United States Decathlon team in the last Olympic, and we're going to be working with them through Beijing, China next year for the Summer Olympics. I work specifically with the United States Decathlon team, so my background is such so that these guys have to do 10 events. They have to be full body in good shape. So I'm going to try and take a little bit of that knowledge that I have for those athletes, and I'm going to apply it to you so that you can decrease the chance of your injuries. And what I teach you today, you will for sure 100% guaranteed be able to decrease your injuries just by doing these stretches that have been taught to you. The whole idea behind these micro stretches that you're going to do starting your day is you want to reduce the fatigue. When there are injuries, the majority of the problems are because of muscles get fatigued, and when the muscles fatigue, then your body starts to rely more on the ligaments of the body, which are just elastic bands that hold the joints together. Now we're going to be dealing with really three different things: the muscle, the ligament, and the bone. And the ligaments are just elastic bands, just like the elastic around your underwear. Their only job is to hold one bone tightly to another. That's the only job that it has. You can't strengthen a ligament. So when you guys sprain your ligaments, the only thing that you can heal with is scar tissue. And that happens after the age of puberty, because after the age of puberty, there's not enough blood supply to ligaments. So when you guys sprain your ligament capsules, the only thing they can heal with is with scar tissue, and that starts to form less than 24 hours after you get injured. So when you do these micro stretches, you're going to be strengthening and flushing new blood supply into the muscles, so the muscles don't fatigue, so your ligaments don't sprain. So to give you an example, we're going to go through a micro stretch for the neck and upper back. A lot of people have problems in between their shoulder blades and their shoulders up on top, the lower trap muscles. So what you would do with that micro stretch is to lift your shoulders up, try and touch your elbows behind your back, and then bend your head back as far as you can, and then relax. What you're doing basically is you're squeezing the blood supply out of the muscle, and then just like when I squeeze my hand and I open it up, it turned from white to red. You just change the complete blood supply over in the palm of your hand when you do that. That's what you're doing to your muscles. So when you start off the day by doing these micro stretches, you're going to clean the blood supply out of those muscles, and then they're going to be a lot stronger because they're going to have fresh oxygenated blood supply so they don't fatigue throughout your workday. So the whole idea behind the micro stretches is to pump fresh blood supply into the muscles so they can always stay strong, so your ligaments do not sprain. Now, the thing you need to know about ligaments is every single joint, whether it be in your finger, your wrist, your elbow, your shoulder, every single joint is held together by an airtight ligament capsule. And inside that capsule there's fluid. And that fluid is called synovial fluid. It's 100 times more slippery than Teflon. That's what lubricates all your cartilage joints. The only thing different about your ligament capsules is the shape, because it's just a little different shape here versus your shoulder and versus your 26 pair in the spine. So what you want to do is you want to protect those. And that capsule, that airtight ligament capsule, that is what secretes or produces your synovial fluid. But it's the act of everyday movement that tells that ligament capsule to secrete more fluid. So the old saying, move it or lose it, that's really true. So you got to keep these joints moving, and that's part of the reason why you want to do these micro stretches. Because as long as you keep that joint capsule stretched, it'll always produce fluid to lubricate your cartilage. Now remember, that fluid is 100 times more slippery than Teflon. So you always want to keep your fluid production up. Now here's the bad thing. After you sprain a ligament, the only thing that it can heal with is scar tissue, and that starts to form less than 24 hours later. Well, that scar tissue is like a spider web network. And after it starts to form, then when you sleep at night, those little scar tissue adhesions start to contract. And then after 5 to 7 years, they start to sit still long enough, thicken, and then they calcify. After they calcify, what do you think we call it? Oh, you've got arthritis. But it takes 5 to 7 years before I can see that on an x-ray. So by you constantly doing these micro stretches and constantly moving the joints, you're always going to be stretching your scar tissue so it can't sit still long enough in order to calcify. Thus, you're going to have a ton less arthritis. So to give you an example of what you want to remember is with these micro stretches is stretch the exact opposite way of whatever you're moving. So if you're required to screw screws like this all day long, can you see how that's going to elongate this muscle here and it's going to shorten this one here? So your micro stretch is going to be stretching the exact opposite of whatever you're working. So elongated, your micro stretch is going to be stretching this way. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You do that 3 times for a count of 4, and you do it every 2 hours, because you're constantly going to get fresh oxygenated blood supply in this forearm muscle, and then you won't get tendonitis into your elbow, because you're constantly changing the blood supply in that forearm extensor muscle group. So if you're required, normally you should have a nice posture, keep the arch in the neck and the low back. So if you're required to go out of that posture, like if you're bent forward all day long, what do you think your micro stretch is? Again, bend backward. Hold your pelvis and bend backward. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're constantly stretching the blood supply in these muscles that are working hard all day long to hold you upright. And if you constantly change that blood supply over, you're always going to have strong muscles to protect yourself. So that's the key behind doing these exercises and these stretches. And don't do them half-heartedly. You got to do them wholeheartedly, because that's what's going to make the difference for you. Not only that, it's going to give you quality life over time. You're going to be, once you're done with work, you're going to be able to play with your grandkids or your own kids, because you're going to be able to keep these joints moving and flexible so that you can always produce the synovial fluid to give you a better quality of life, not just to prevent injuries at work. So it's all about quality of life over time. That's what I've found over the years with my patients.